We're going to talk about a pair of outfielders as well as minor league free agency kicking off and what it means for the Tigers. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, November 8th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome in, welcome all. Happy everybody, period, probably. Happy Friday to everyone. Hopefully we'll send you off into your weekend with a nice show here. We're going to continue our player breakdowns. There's two players that I guess in my head I always link together because of this show, right? Like back in, was that going into not this season, but last season, going into 2023, there was a big debate on whether Baddoo or Carpenter should make the opening day roster, and now just like hindsight is 2020, and it just looks such like a silly conversation because Carpenter has blossomed into legitimately one of the better hitters in baseball. So we're going to talk about both of those gentlemen today, Kerry Carpenter and Akil Baddoo, and then at the end of the show, we're going to talk about minor league free agency kicking off. The Tigers lost, I want to say it's 21 to 25 guys all to minor league free agency. Now, that doesn't mean they can't re-sign some of them, once the market settles and whatnot. But that is the show for today. So let's start off by talking about Kerry Carpenter. Kerry Carpenter had an unbelievable season when he was on the field. 284 average, a 345 on base percentage, and a 587 slug. That is a very high slugging percentage, and that is a 932 OPS in 87 games. He had a 2.4 FWAR, so almost a 2.5 win season in just 87 games, which is remarkable. That's around half of a season played. You prorate that, you start flirting with, like a like a 5-win season. So a really, really good year, despite the fact that it was cut short with injury. 7.4% walk rate and a 25.3% strikeout rate. Kerry Carpenter proved himself as the best hitter on the Detroit Tigers this year, but I was really impressed with what he did outside of the batter's box. We will certainly talk plenty about his offense and all of the amazingness that came with this season and him at the plate. But this season, he put up, metrically, that's the word. He had a plus arm, which is always a good thing from corner outfield. He was a +1 defensive run saved in the outfield as a whole, right and left field combined, and was a net 0 outs above average. And I know that sounds like crazy to take a huge victory lap over, but that you have to remember where we came from with Kerry Carpenter here. Like that is such a far cry from where he was when he made his debut, and him being even, I can remember on this show saying, wow, this dude is such a good hitter. If he can even be a net 0 defender, he's going to be very valuable. And now here we are. He's around a net 0, even again, this season, maybe you could argue even a slightly, ever so slightly positive defender in corner outfield. And that has just made him so much more valuable and usable and versatile to this organization. It is super impressive. And he's not slow either, an above average runner for whatever that's worth to you as well. But just considering where we started off with Kerry Carpenter and his defense, and like, do you remember the conversations after his first stint in the majors? It was like, this guy's going to have to be a permanent DH. Like, there's really no way around it. He's just going to have to be a DH where Miguel Cabrera is going to retire, and then we're just going to be stuck with a logjam of like, just this guy is the DH again going forward. And that is not the case. Like, he proved and played his way out of that conversation. He can play 162 games in corner outfield. Is he going to be a Gold Glover? Is he going to be fantastic out there? No, absolutely not. He's not going to be Parker Meadows or Riley Green out there defensively, but he can hold his own and not cost you runs. And with how much value he provides at the plate, that's really all we've ever asked for out of him defensively. So let's talk about the offense. He hit bombs everywhere, just absolute ropes to all parts of the field. This dude's bat path, I know if you're a longtime listener of the show, I rave about his bat path all the time, but it is because it is literally perfect. Like, it's mind-boggling to me how repeatable everything is for him mechanically. So a barrel on Baseball Savant is, there's a launch angle window. It's got to be, I think it's like 22 and 27, or maybe it's just in the 20s. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's you want to be around a 24, 26 degree launch angle. And then the ball has to go 95 plus miles an hour exit velocity off the bat. The way that his bat path is shaped, the way that the shape in which he swings the bat is like, I don't know how anything's not a barrel. It's literally like an automatic barrel every single time he hits a baseball. It's so impressive. It's so repeatable. It's so fluid. He and obviously his hitting coach gets, a lot of publicity because he's Aaron Judge's hitting coach and he's, the swing doctor and whatever. But like, it is so impressive what he and his team and his camp have done with his career, because he was an afterthought of a prospect. No one gave him the time of day. Nobody thought he was going to be anything. He wasn't even in the top 30 prospects for this team coming out of the draft. And now we're talking about a 932 OPS season. His hard hit rate was 46%. His slugging percentage was the fourth highest in all of baseball for players that had at least 250 plate appearances. And his barrel rate, as we mentioned, was almost 18%, just shy of 18%. That was also one of the highest in the entire game of baseball. I think what I have been the most impressed with offensively, aside from just the natural progression into being, incredible all around, is that the walk rate continues to climb year after year. His first cup of coffee, it was, was that a month and a half in 2022, his walk rate was like 5.5%. Last year was around 7. This year is around 7.5. And he swings and misses a decent amount. He strikes out a decent amount above average, or he strikes out at higher than league average, I should say. But if he can walk 7+% of the time and have an OPS over 900, then like, I don't think anyone can or should really care. Like, that is just such a good hitter that's all that matters. He's walking more and more each season, and that is so impressive. The big question surrounding Kerry Carpenter, the only question with his offense is he a full-time hitter or is he a platoon bat? And that's not like a negative connotation. We've seen how valuable he can be over the course of a season as quote-unquote just a platoon bat. But can he play 162 games? We'll break that down a little bit further right after this. Gotta talk to y'all today about our friends over at Ibotta. Big holidays mean big family get-togethers, so gather your loved ones and enjoy all of the holiday traditions you cherish with the help of cashback from Ibotta. This month, Ibotta is giving users 100% cashback on your Thanksgiving feast. 100% cashback. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care to pantry goods and more. So you can get everything you need for the holidays. Other apps give you points that really don't amount to too terribly much at the end of the day. With Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, gift cards, you name it. You can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. So download the Ibotta app now and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA at the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Monday recapping any news and notes that happen over the weekend. We have GM meetings happening as we speak. They end this weekend. So any news that comes out of there, if the Tigers make a move, if they don't, whatever, no matter what happens, we'll be back on Monday. So talking about Kerry Carpenter, as we mentioned before the break there, the big question surrounding Carp is just, is he going to be able to hit lefties? This season, his OPS against right-handed pitching was just barely shy of 1,000. Like within, I think it was 994. Like he was almost an 1,000 OPS hitter against righties. Against lefties, he had 107 and had a 408 OPS. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. One, that's comfortably the worst of his career. Even his previous 2 seasons against lefties, he was like I think his first year, which was only about a month and a half sample, was in the 500s. And then last year, 2023, it was in the 600s. This year, very small sample size. He did not get very many opportunities against lefties. AJ Hinch is a madman when it comes to the pinch hitting and the platooning. And he just straight up did not get very many opportunities against left-handed pitching. I don't think Kerry Carpenter is a 400 OPS hitter against lefties, but we haven't seen him actually hit them well yet in his entire career. And that is a big sample size. So both can be true. You can think, okay, well, that's, he's not that bad against lefties, while also realizing he is always probably going to be far better against righties than lefties. It is, he's always been able to hit fastballs against both handedness. Last season, he hit over 300 against fastballs from left-handed pitching. This year, his only home run off of a lefty all season was off of a fastball. But pretty much everything else that a lefty throws, especially this season, was an automatic strike or an out. So looking ahead, what is he going to become? This dude has a ton of team control and is legitimately has established himself as one of the best hitters this entire sport has to offer against right-handed pitching. Like, how cool is that to even say? In 2019, we lost 114 games and like John Hicks was hitting cleanup. We were talking about Torkelson and Green and like all of this, and like Riley Green has been fantastic. I think he's the best all-around player on this team, sans Tarek Skubal and the pitchers. Like I'm not trying to diminish our all-star here, but like it's just so cool that a guy that wasn't on the radar during like the thick of the losing of this rebuild is now not only the best hitter on the team, but is legitimately one of the best hitters in all of baseball and proved that this season. So regardless of if he ends up being a platoon hitter, right, long term, which he already has been this past year, I'm speaking in the future as if we don't already have 3 seasons of sample of him being a pretty legitimate platoon hitter. But like he's still, 27 years old. He still has 4 years of team control, 3.5 years of team control. Like there's still plenty of room for him to grow and develop as well. But he's so valuable regardless. And he will be a very large part of the Tigers' success for years to come. It would just be really, really, really cool if he could hit lefties at even like a league average rate. Like if he had a 750 OPS against lefties, that would do wonders for this team. You're talking about a guy that could like be a 4 to 5. I mean, heck, if he plays 162 games, like maybe even 5.5, 6 WAR player with how well he hit this year, over 162 games. Also, and I think this is maybe like my most underrated takeaway here, health. Riley Green got absolutely dumped on by this fan base his entire career before this season for he's injury prone, he can't stay healthy, all of this. Kerry Carpenter has not sniffed a full season of baseball either. And this is, next year will be the 4th season he has played at the major league level to some extent. Need a full season out of the team's best hitter. That would go a really long way for the team long term, obviously. So really want a full season out of him. Let's talk Akil Baddoo. I mean, if we're talking role for Carpenter, just to put a bow on that, he's going to be a middle of the lineup bat going forward for this team against righties at a minimum. He'll be the 2 or 3 hitter against every righty we face going forward. And we'll see what his development happens against, what his development leads to against lefties. They're going to sign a righty outfielder at some point this year or this offseason, I'd imagine as well. So we'll see if maybe that aids in the decision for or against it. Akil Baddoo, in 31 games this year, had a 137 average, a 220 on base percentage, a 301 slug. That is just a 521 OPS. He walked at a 9.8% clip and struck out at a 32.9% rate. He was worth negative 0.3 Fangraphs WAR. In AAA, in 82 games, he hit 238 and had a 758 OPS. He also hit 207 against lefties in Toledo. Akil Baddoo is always going to be a fan favorite, and I will always love and adore that man. I will always root for him no matter what happens going forward. His 756, 766 OPS as a rookie got people really optimistic about the former Rule 5 pick. And I still strongly believe that there is a solid Major League Baseball player in there. I really do. And it might take his retirement for me to think otherwise. Maybe this is me just being a hopeless romantic, but like if I told you, okay, let's bring it down this way. If I told you, hey, there's a 26-year-old that is really fast, can steal bases, has legitimate pop, like if he played a full season, could flirt with 20 homers, and draws a ton of walks, and is a lefty, I think most, if not all, organizations would jump all over that and be willing and wanting to bring that dude into their organization. He has the tools. He has all the tools to be a really good player. He just can't seem to put them all together. He can't hit lefties at the major league level. He has been, at best, a net zero defender over his major league career, and at worst, a pretty comfortably negative defender. And he strikes out a ton. He had a 34% whiff rate this year and a 33% K rate this year. Now, again, that's a pretty small sample size at the major league level this season, but that has been a thing his entire career, and that is a pretty big sample at this point. Back in 2021, when, Baddoo Mania was happening, he was destroying fastballs. And I can remember doing this player breakdown for him after his rookie season. And I can remember talking about how he crushed fastballs. The next step in his development is going to be hitting off speed and breaking balls. And that just never happened. And on top of that, this is now 2 years in a row he has had a sub 200 batting average against fastballs at the major league level. hit 198 or 190 against them in 2023, which was a much bigger sample size than this year, and then was well below it this season. There is still good in there as well. Like when he did hit, he still barreled up plenty of baseballs this season. When he connects, he still has a lot of pop, and he's always had a great eye, which is kind of the reason I adore him so much. Like he is power, speed, and eye. That is a prototypical outfielder. That's what everybody wants their outfielders to be. Fast, draw walks, and hit for power, especially your corner outfielders. And he can still provide a lot of value within that because he draws walks at such an amazing clip and has his entire professional career. There have just been way too many shortcomings with the bat, unfortunately. So let's talk about his future. I think that's kind of the biggest conversation surrounding Baddoo right now is what do the Tigers do with him long term? We'll talk about that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost to an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So talking about Akil Baddoo, we kind of broke down the player profile. I think most people are pretty aware of what Akil Baddoo is on the baseball diamond at this point. So what happens going forward? This is a guy that I am terrified of leaving Detroit and becoming really, really good. That is something that is always going to be in the back of my mind wherever he ends up in his career. He has one minor league option left going into 2025, which means that the Tigers can send him down at the beginning of a season to the minor leagues one more time for quote unquote free. If they do it beyond next season, then he has to clear waivers. And I would be relatively confident that he would get picked up off waivers. Not certain, maybe a year's time he falls off a cliff here and struggles even more. We'll see what happens. But if today the Tigers put him on waivers, like he would have a market, somebody would pick him up. So still one more minor league option, but only one more minor league option, which makes him, to me, a really intriguing trade candidate for the Detroit Tigers this winter. The reason why this really boils down to performance and fit. Unfortunately, for our good friend Akil Baddoo, outfield has turned into a huge strength for this team. There's a legitimate argument, potentially a winning argument, that the three best non-pitchers on this team are our entire outfield. They're right, like that's a very, very winnable argument that the three best players on the team are our three outfielders. And even more unfortunately for him, all three of those guys are lefties. So, if they waited to trade him next year, the team acquiring him would then have to put him on their major league roster, or they would just have to put him through waivers too, and I'm not sure why they would do that. So trading him this winter gives you a little bit more flexibility for the organization that's acquiring him, which then inherently is going to give him a little bit more value in a trade. They could also just non-tender him in a couple of weeks. We'll have a whole episode dedicated to the non-tender deadline and who could be a non-tender candidate, because there are plenty, and Akil Baddoo is certainly one of them. If there truly isn't a trade market for this guy, then they could not tender him. Now, I doubt that's the case. I don't think you won't be able to convince me that like nobody would be willing to trade an asset for him. Now, it's not going to be much. You're going to get like a 20-year-old reliever in single A. Like I'm not saying that you're going to get a ton of value for a guy that we're debating whether he's going to get non-tendered or not, but he is still relatively young and he still has all of the tools and he has a minor league option left. And I really do think that if you are going to move him, this winter is the time to do so. Again, maybe there's a chance that he just hasn't hit well enough for any other organization to be willing to give up an asset to acquire him. But that minor league option really does a lot of heavy lifting in his value to me. And all in all, I think, again, I will always root for this dude. I absolutely adore him. That beginning of 2021 was just so awesome. And really the whole season for him was awesome. So I think that he's either going to be minor league depth for outfield next year, where he's going to be in Toledo, just like he was this year for most of the season. And if there's an injury in the outfield, then he'll, pop up for a few games and then get sent down. Or he's moved this winter. And to be completely honest with you, I think it is far more likely at this moment that he is moved this winter. Let's talk minor league free agency. Don't have too much to break down here, just the acknowledgement that minor league free agency, it has begun this week. And I'm going to read off the list of players that the Tigers are losing to minor league free agency. Now, there's nothing that says they can't just re-sign him again, but all of these minor leaguers in the Tigers organization are free agents. You have Anthony Bemboom, Thomas Nido, Julio E. Rodriguez, the catcher, Drew Maggi, who was obviously a big story for the Pirates. What was that, a couple of years ago now? Luis Santana, Bly Madris, Oscar Mercado, Ryan Valade, pitchers Calvin Coker, Miguel Diaz, Snarlin Evangelista, Wilkel Hernandez, Garrett Hill, Tim Naughton, Joel Peguero, Eric Penales, Angel Reyes, Angel Sanchez, Austin Shuffler, and Troy Watson, along with, we're almost done, Jake Higginbotham, Brian Sammons, Andrew Vasquez, Gerard Velaz, and Adam Wolf. Wow, Adam Wolf already done with time, man. I remember when Adam Wolf pitched, I want to say it was like the first 5 or 6 innings of a no-hitter down in Double-A. This is probably 2, maybe even 3 years ago now, and he was probably in his mid-20s by then, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But this is a guy that has been kind of like a fixture of the Tigers minor league system for a while as far as, arms go. So, I mean, there's a lot of names that I just threw at you. I kind of just listed them off, which isn't very good radio or analysis there. But, I mean, there's some names that stick out. Obviously, Ryan Valade impressed in his short time with the Tigers. Also, Bly Madris impressed in his short time with the team. Brian Sammons pitched like high leverage innings for the Tigers down the stretch. So that's obviously a noteworthy one. Andrew Vasquez 2 seasons ago pitched in some notable and high leverage innings for the Tigers. Not as much this year. Garrett Hill was a guy that at one point I was decently high on when they moved him to the bullpen and he was chucking, 95 mile an hour 2-seam fastballs. I thought maybe he had a chance at something, but his walk numbers are so high. He just has no command. So that's obviously going to be a shortcoming of his. But again, they can bring back any of these guys to minor league deals. I'd have a hard time believing any of these guys are going to be major leaguers for the Tigers at least, but some of these guys maybe played themselves into, major league contracts for like bottom of the barrel teams. Jake Higginbotham was a trade acquisition for the Tigers, one of Avila's last, if I remember correctly. And he was decently regarded at one point. Miguel Diaz, my absolute king, one of my favorite Tigers pitchers of the last few years. I hope that they can keep him in the organization somehow. He's that's the dog right there. But that is officially open. So go check out other teams' lists. That's really like, I mean, I'm a nerd when it comes to baseball. Like I understand I'm the weirdo here, but like I'll just spend a ton of time just looking at all of the other names that are now minor league free agents from all the other organizations, because there is actually some, always some noteworthy guys that could get major league deals here this winter. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Monday. I appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.